Hi everyone, it's May. It is that pivotal time in gardening, especially here in Zone 6, New York, where your days could be in the 80s, but your nighttime can still dip into the 30s. So as anxious as I am to plant out the garden, I really need to wait, because definitely last year we had a freeze in mid-May, which is our estimated frost date, last frost date being May 15th. So I'm definitely sticking to that. Because while I could throw some cover on some things that I'm planting and have planted, I can't do it for all of them. It's really hard to cover a hugel. It's really hard to put something over a trellis area. So it's better to just be patient and wait it out. So let's just walk around, show you what I've got planted so far and what our plants are for the coming weeks. And I'll show you the seedlings that will be going in soon. So over here, I just put up this trellis yesterday. And let me tell you, I build 98% of all the garden spaces. My husband does 100% of tree planting, and he does a crazy amount of that. But I do majority of the work with putting up gardening structures, collecting soil, hauling them around. And I'm very proud of myself for that. So this little trellis, leftover fencing that we have, I just, clipped it onto some T-posts. Here it's buried in a 5-gallon container. And I will be putting a couple more around the bottom, and I'll be trellising beans and maybe some flowers. I'm excited for that. Now in here, this was like the first thing I put in the ground. Ooh, dusty pollen. And we've got the spinach, which is coming along so beautifully, and we're starting to eat out of. The kale is finally coming up. It took them a while to get in. They're in the back. And also the Swiss chard is finally coming up. But I was really surprised by the bok choy here and the pak choy taller in the back. They're already going to flower. And it was like the week after I transplanted them, they started bolting. So knowing that, I will not be sowing these so aggressively in the spring, or possibly even earlier in the spring, and then just sowing them maybe in late August for September, October harvest. Because they're super delicious and I want to eat more of them. But if they're going to go to flower quickly, then I feel like I'm not getting my money's worth. But I'll harvest these and put in some other new seedlings that we've got going up. Now a few days ago, I planted the celery. Now, this isn't the ideal way to plant celery, but I just overseeded the container they were in, and they all came up. I'd heard that celery is like an intermediate level plant, poor germination, all this, and I have absolutely beautiful celery, and I didn't want to kill any of them by thinning, so this is an experiment for the most part. So they're all going in. We'll see what we get. And I can keep sowing. I'm going to sow more celery directly in ground. And they can keep going through the summer, apparently. Over there, I've got leeks. My alliums, I'm not really super impressed with how they've come up. Very tiny, very spindly. I don't know if I'm going to have a good allium harvest this year. Over here, our beets and carrots are coming along beautifully. And also the alliums in this bed. The onions, these are the Utah yellow. They're looking promising. They've definitely doubled in size since I've transplanted. So I've thinned the beets. A lot of them had like three beets per seed, because it's a pod that you end up planting, and sometimes you get 3. So I've thinned it to 2 per. And and we'll see in a few weeks what comes up. And then the carrots I just sowed heavily, and I've thinned a bit, but that's as far as I'm gonna thin, because I really just want to see what happens. I'll let them grow. So over here in the wild bed, our peas are coming up. I'll be transplanting a couple more peas that I put in containers and putting them along this fence line. And then the extra spinach and choys and kales I put in this bed. And they're just moseying along. No explosive growth happening, but definitely losing the choys to bolting or some kind of pest damage. Like these just got uprooted. Looks like maybe birds pulled them out, or I don't know, maybe just I saw a fat squirrel before. Oh, look at this. Just like dug all this out of the ground. I don't know. Something's going happy in this area. I don't see holes, so I'm not quite sure what's going on. And some volunteer lettuce that we've been eating out of. This is the very first beet that I sowed like in February. I'm curious to see if I get any actual beet out of it. Before the seedlings, take a look at our garlic. I transplanted the yarrow. There's our dill. I planted marigold along the edge of the bed here. And there's some more yarrow and more garlic. And then the dill, if you recall, pretty much looked like all reddish and purplish leaves. And eventually fed a little bit of fertilizer. They're starting to green up. Yay. And now to the seedlings. So I put the peppers out here with more sun, get them more heat, and they're doing well. And these are the experimental vegetables that I've got in pots, because I don't know how I like them. So this way they're in a controlled space. Here we have the tomatoes that are bursting at the seams. Some of these are for my parents. They were supposed to have been transplanted in by now, because they're in New Jersey in a zone that's warmer than here, and they could have gone in the ground by now, but plans changed, so they're gonna have to wait a little bit longer. This is tomatillos. They've started to flower. I've been pinching those. And the ground cherry, also flowering, need to be pinched. And this kale seed found its way into here, and I'm letting it cohabitate until I transplant. Over here we have a lot of morning glories. I was overzealous in thinking they wouldn't germinate, but they all did. I've got stevia I can't wait to put into their pots. Got some sadder looking basil. These have been in the basement for a while, and they just did not come up healthy. After a while they started getting brown and just sad looking. So I made sure to put in more seedlings. I've got lemon basil and Genovese, and I'm also trying cumin. I don't know how that's going to be. And I've got nasturtiums. I didn't have too many of those seeds left, so we only got a handful of nasturtiums to move around. These are some more brassicas that I'm going to transplant in, where I'll be picking out the spent ones. These are the peas that I'll be transplanting. I didn't take you to the Hugo, but these are the rutabagas, and I really want to get a good harvest. So I decided to start some seedlings here and transplant them there in a little while. Now I'm pretty sure I can put this in the ground. This is the rhubarb. I want to get them in the ground soon. Today preferably, because we're going to get some nice rain coming in. I'm going to hold off still on the asparagus. It's starting to look lanky over here, but I just don't want them to chance a freeze. And they're very delicate right now, and to put a cover on them, I don't think that would serve them any justice. The lone lavender that I had managed to germinate has succumbed to overwatering and lack of nutrition. Some more lettuce there that we're eating almost every day. I let it go like every other day, every 3 days to grow back, and then we eat them as baby lettuce. I'm not really interested in them to get to be the size of my hand or anything. I prefer them small. And this is the rosemary. I didn't get too many seeds, and yeah, these have been inside in the window. They're super leggy. Hoping I can save them somehow. But they're gonna spend some time outdoors, get some real UV. This one's the strongest of the bunch. That one took the longest to come up. This was the first to come up. At first it was super strong, but now it's also getting sad. This one was always leggy and sad. We'll see. We might just bite the bullet and buy some rosemary and just take cuttings and try to propagate it that way. And that is the tour for today. I hope I can plant out some of these before the rain comes in, but otherwise I will talk to you in a little while and show you what progress we've made. Bye everyone.